Things I did in preparation for driving a big rig. Watched Maximum Overdrive. It came highly recommended. I recommend it only to those whose lives seem 97 minutes too long. Bought a camouflage hat at a truck stop. Checked with the Michigan Secretary of State to confirm that I am legally allowed to drive such a vehicle. Turns out my Class B commercial driver's license with air brake endorsement is sufficient documentation for the authorities, as long as I don't try to tow more than 10,000 pounds at one time. When the truck arrives on a Monday morning, it looks like something out of Mad Max Pre-Apocalypse, and if Mad Max had rolled through Sturgis with a giant chrome-attracting magnet. Based on the regular and nearly equally showy International LoneStar, this Harley truck is actually number 2, of 250 that will be built for 2009. It's a maxed out, $142,000 LoneStar sleeper cab with 13 grand of Harley appearance added. The cost of the extra swag almost seems reasonable when you consider the thousands of dollars in accessories that Harley bike owners routinely throw at their hogs. The LoneStar's headlight housings are straight from the Harley catalog, although they use revised innards to meet truck regulations. The huge chrome front bumper is flatter than that of the regular truck and sits below a unique grille. Exhaust stack heat shields measure a chimney like 7 inches in diameter. R&D shield logos adorn the wheels and the exterior sun visor. Big letters that spell out Harley Davidson are cut into the chrome bands on the sides of the hood. The interior gets Harley emblems on the seats and rear sofa. A special gauge cluster is styled like the pod on the V-Rod motorcycle. We were told the transmission would be simple. Right? So, yes, it's a showy truck, but one built to work. Ours had a 15.0-liter Cummins diesel under its clamshell hood, which means each of 6 cylinders displaces 2.5 liters. The engine is fed air through a massive, leaf-blower-sized turbo. Max power of 550 HP is reached only at the engine's 2000 RPM redline. The monumental 1850 lb-ft of torque peaks practically just off idle, at 1200 RPM. Before reaching the 2 drive axles at the rear, the power is routed through an 18-speed manual transmission that gives new meaning to heavy duty. In its lowest speed, the transmission restricts you to a maximum velocity similar to that of frozen molasses, as it allows the truck to get underway while towing tens of thousands of pounds of same. This sort of transmission is what keeps just anyone from driving a truck. Although I've piloted bigger, heavier, longer, and bendier vehicles, articulated buses, for example, I've never had to do so while selecting my own gears. After a brief walk around of the truck, wherein we were introduced to the belly room specification, which is the space between trucker gut and steering wheel, I kindly asked the driver who delivered the LoneStar for a lesson in shifting the 18 forward ratios, which are really combinations of different cogs that provide 18 discrete gears. He said it would be simple once we got used to it. We were skeptical, to say the least. There are no synchros, which means every shift requires a double clutch maneuver: clutch in, shift to neutral, clutch out, wait for revs to drop on upshifts or at 200 RPM on downshifts, clutch in, select gear, clutch out. Simple, right? Mess that up, and you'll be anxiously hunting for a gear that correctly matches the road speed with engine speed, all while the road speed quickly drops off. Haphazard shifter wiggling commences, and the gears make their displeasure heard. Put simply, the transmission hates you and wants you to fail. And I did, several times. Negotiating the 18-speed shift pattern is a confusing, mind-numbing, who the heck thought this made sense to begin with nightmare. The shift gates are laid out in a dogleg pattern, with low, think of it as gear 0, to the left and down. To the right lie 1 through 4 in an H pattern. From here, the shift pattern follows more of a modified double helix arrangement. Positions 5 through 8 are the same as 1 through 4, but accessed by flicking a switch on the front of the shift knob that chooses among the ranges. Those keeping score at home might notice that that's only 9 speeds. To account for the rest of the ratios, 0 through 8 are further split into low and high, selected by another switch on the left of the shift knob, As a result, there's a low version of low, or zero, gear found in the lower range. And there are 4 reverse ratios. No kidding. A diagram on the center console attempts to simplify all of this. We've included it in the gallery to confuse you further. Even the clutch has something to hide. The first few inches of travel provide normal clutch actuation, but go farther down toward the floor, and you hit the clutch brake. In the absence of synchros, the clutch brake slows or stops the input shaft, which aids smooth and quiet engagement from a standstill. Recalibrating my clutch leg for that was like forgetting how to breathe, or at least trying to do so less frequently. Combine that with the high effort required to depress the clutch pedal, and stopping for a massage at one of those roadside oriental spas sounded like a good idea. Wait, it's not that kind of massage? They do what? Best in maximum overdrive. Once you sorta figure out the gearbox, getting down the road in the LoneStar isn't too difficult. Its width never became a problem, but its height could have. Have you ever noticed how tree canopies that overhang roads are shaped like trucks? I hadn't either, until it was my truck doing the shaping. The sound of low-hanging branches hitting the smokestacks reminded me to look up and cringe. And so I mostly stuck to the freeway where trucks of this size belong. Few four-wheelers, that's trucker speak for passenger vehicles, got in the LoneStar's way, and when they did, it reminded me why I don't chance it around semis. They can't see you, and when they do, it's often too late to stop. Note our 361-foot 70-0 stopping distance, and we weren't even towing a trailer. The brakes are touchy, though, which likely has something to do with the fact that they're designed to stop truck and loaded trailer. The air-actuated pedal provides no feedback, although being jammed against the seat belt is a good indication you're stopping. Despite massive front leaf springs and our truck being completely unladen, the ride was surprisingly good, owing in part to 3 layers of air suspension. The rear wheels, the cab, and the front seats each ride on the much-needed cushion. Wind noise is as bearable as it can be, given the uprightness of the cab design. The sculpted front seems to help. Steering isn't difficult and doesn't require much effort to maintain a straight line. The wheel can be adjusted in an array of positions, from nearly parallel to your chest to dinner plate flat. It's covered in buttons like those of a car, including one that blows the extremely loud and extremely awesome air horn. Testing, low, 1, 2. Prior to testing, we needed to fill the truck with fuel and weigh it, so we headed to a truck stop. After playing 20 questions with the pay at the pump computer, including being asked if we wanted reefer fuel, no thanks, I'm driving, we finally managed to fill the 2 150-gallon tanks to their brims. Full of fuel, the truck and driver weighed in at 22,100 pounds. It was then on to Chrysler's Proving Ground, the place we usually test our vehicles. For the truck, we focused on a limited set of numbers: straight line acceleration and braking. We figured those would be the most useful to truckers, at least the ones who plan to drag race each other in chrome-slathered freight trains. We did break some cardinal testing rules by starting in a gear other than the lowest and skipping several in between, but that can be our little secret. Our quickest run to 60 took 20.4 seconds and was achieved by starting out in 4 low. The straight, level road also provided a perfect opportunity to attempt a full run through the gears. Our reward for feverish shifting? Hitting a red line limited 95 miles per hour on the straight. That's 95 miles per hour. Doing that speed in something the size of a house that also doubles as a house was like being high on meth. Or so I imagine. Never leave home with it. Trucking is obviously not the most physically demanding vocation, see belly room above, but the combination of shifting, clutching, and worrying about running over cars proved tiring work. Luckily, the trip from office to bedroom is quick in a semi-tractor. After returning to home base, I bedded down for the night in the HD LoneStar's Murphy-style bunk. It folds down from the wall, covering the sofa. Curtains ring the windshield and side window area to keep out the light, and if it hadn't been for the trains that pass right by our parking lot, I would have slept soundly through the night. Parting ways with the truck wasn't easy. I was starting to get used to the idea of hitting the open road, 128 ounces of coffee in my bladder and the lot lizards on speed dial. But alas, the next thing I knew the transport driver was outside my bedroom window waiting to repossess my dwelling. A week after the International had gone, I found myself eating chicken fried steak at a truck stop. Once a trucker, always a trucker.